For other positive reviews, well, you've got IGN, that's never a good sign, and as Critical Drinker says, they can't exactly be trusted when The Penguin got a 5, The Witcher got a 7, and The Marvels got an 8. It basically looks like their score goes up the more girl power a series has.
Siri.
Although they did give Willow a 9, so there are times when they absolutely knock it out of the park. I think the strangest of the positives is CBR though. Liam Hemsworth Geralt silences the haters. What, you mean like the critics? Do you mean the professional top critics? They've been silenced, yes. Probably because they left and didn't finish the series. They're not watching any more of this tripe. That's why they don't need to talk about it anymore. This season of The Witcher is make or break.
Apparently the audience scores are down to 17%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I saw The Witcher Blood Origin, and Jesus Christ. Yeah. Like, I was watching that for my channel, and I couldn't make it past the second episode. It was shocking how bad it was. And I was expecting it to be bad, and I was still kind of surprised, like, Jesus Christ, this is something else. It's like a woke fever dream, and it's abysmally made.
That's what killed me on The Witcher, ultimately.
The Witcher Season 4 was supposed to mark a new beginning for Netflix's flagship fantasy series. Instead, it's become the perfect example of how to lose an audience in record time. The moment the credits rolled on Henry Cavill's final season, fans knew something was changing, but few expected just how bad the fallout would be. Rotten Tomatoes shows critics sitting around the mid-50s, while audiences have dropped to the teens, and social media feels more like a battlefield than a fan base. People aren't just disappointed, they're furious, confused, and nostalgic for a time when The Witcher actually felt like The Witcher. In this video, we're breaking down what went wrong, from Cavill's dramatic exit and Liam Hemsworth's risky recast to Netflix's behind-the-scenes choices that left fans asking whether anyone still remembers what made the series great in the first place. So let's dive in, because this story isn't just about a fantasy show, it's about a franchise that forgot its own magic.
It does break a record that I didn't even know was being set in movies. That being 1 minute 48 to the first clam slam. You normally open a movie setting up the story, the characters, telling the audience as fast as possible what's most important about them. Well, in this, the most important information was 1 minute 48 to the first minge mashing. The only important thing, the only thing of any note about Ciri's character is that she enjoys a good clunge collision. Now, I haven't watched it yet, but the entire spin-off has been described as a disaster by an insider. Behind the scenes was a disaster. It's worse than Blood Origin, and everything went wrong with it. It wrapped prematurely when Netflix saw the footage and decided to only film for 2 months rather than 6. Considering that Blood Origin was also a disaster and was a longer series that was hacked down into a shorter amount of episodes.
Henry Cavill wasn't just Geralt of Rivia, he was The Witcher. From day one, Cavill poured himself into the role, quoting the books in interviews, correcting lore details on set, and pushing to make the show faithful to Andrzej Sapkowski's world. But behind the scenes, trouble was brewing. Reports began surfacing that Cavill clashed with the writers' room over how far the show was straying from the original tone. Then came the bombshell. He was leaving after season 3.
I'm the most annoying guy on set because I'm saying, excuse me, you do realize that this should be happening and they wouldn't do that, and you haven't read this, that means this would be impossible. And everyone's just going, Henry, just shut up and do the thing. And I'm like, I don't want to do the thing because he wouldn't do it this way, and he can't.
When the showrunner finally addressed it, the explanation felt oddly diplomatic. You don't want to force someone to do something they don't want to do. Fans, however, saw through that. To them, Cavill wasn't walking away from the role. He was walking away from what the show had become. His exit was a signal that The Witcher's creative vision had drifted so far from its roots that even his biggest champion couldn't recognize it anymore. And that's when viewers realized the magic might not survive the next season. Enter Liam Hemsworth. When Netflix announced him as the new Geralt, reactions were immediate and brutal. Fans flooded comment sections with memes, disbelief, and pleas to cancel season 4 altogether. For many, it wasn't about Hemsworth himself, it was about what his casting represented.
I'm really looking forward to reviewing The Rats, even though I have met the crew, and they're some of the most insufferable gits you'll ever come across. That said, the movie starts with their heads in a barrel, so at least I know I'll get a happy ending. I love it when a plan comes together. But as The Witcher, as far as Liam Hemsworth is concerned, if people are complimenting him, I'm pretty sure it's all for the same reason, just like Variety. The only question on their mind is Liam Hemsworth hunk enough for The Witcher? As you can tell, this show really appeals to the male audience. You know, the one it's meant to, the one that played the games. They're like, no, are there any Minotaurs in this movie that he can wrap his hands around on a farm?
Cavill embodied a gruff, battle-scarred, lore-driven hero. Hemsworth, by contrast, brought the image of a younger, smoother, Hollywood-polished Geralt. Even before a single frame aired, the audience felt the show had swapped depth for looks. When Season 4 finally arrived, critics admitted Hemsworth wasn't the worst part. His fight scenes were solid, his voice work passable, but something deeper was missing. His Geralt lacked that weary, haunted presence that Cavill carried effortlessly. The transition felt less like passing a torch and more like rebooting a character mid-story. As one reviewer put it, it's not that Hemsworth failed, it's that the series forgot what success looked like. But if the actor wasn't the main issue, what was? The numbers speak louder than words. A 17% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes isn't just bad, it's catastrophic. Critics hovered in the mid-50s, and even the top critics' average landed in the low 30s. When that many professional reviewers can't find more than a handful of positive things to say, something's seriously wrong.
And, looks like they needed Henry after all. 56% critic score, 17% audience score, and if you're like, well, I really trust the critics, the audience is probably just review bombing it, then you're gonna have to explain why the top critics is 33% as well. That means 2/3 of them didn't think it was above a 5.
What made it worse was how divided the reactions were. Official media outlets tried to stay polite, calling it ambitious but uneven, while fans on Reddit and X described it as soulless, unwatchable, and The Witcher in name only. Many longtime viewers felt betrayed. They'd waded through production delays, believed Netflix when it promised the series would honor the games and books, and then got a product that felt like it didn't even know its audience. Once trust like that is broken, no amount of glossy fight choreography can fix it. The decline wasn't about review bombing or social media rage. It was about losing the emotional bond that made people care in the first place. If there's one thing fans and critics agree on, it's this: The Witcher didn't collapse because of one actor's departure. It collapsed because of what was happening behind the camera. What began as one of Netflix's most ambitious projects slowly turned into a creative tug-of-war that no one seemed able to win. Showrunner Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich had a clear goal early on: make The Witcher accessible to everyone. On paper, that sounded brilliant. A dark fantasy series that could appeal to not just hardcore fans of the books and games, but to anyone who stumbled across it on Netflix. But in trying to please everyone, the series began to lose the sharp edge that made it stand out. The show that once felt raw, mature, and morally complex started to feel polished, corporate, and oddly sanitized.
Reports from inside the writer's room painted a more troubling picture. Multiple insiders claimed that some of the writers actively mocked the source material, dismissing Sapkowski's dialogue and lore as too nerdy or too complicated for general audiences. To fans, this was blasphemy. The literary DNA of the series was being rewritten by people who didn't respect it. Even Cavill, known for being deeply invested in the original books, hinted in interviews that he often pushed for more faithful interpretations of scenes and lore. But his voice, it seems, was drowned out. Behind the scenes, creative differences escalated. Netflix wanted faster pacing, more visual spectacle, and broader mass appeal. The showrunner wanted emotional arcs and political intrigue. Cavill wanted fidelity to the source. What viewers got was a Frankenstein hybrid, a show too shallow for book purists and too confusing for casual audiences. By Season 3's finale, that creative dissonance was impossible to ignore. Cavill's departure was no longer shocking, it was inevitable. But the real red flags came after he left. Instead of regrouping or reconsidering the show's direction, Netflix doubled down. Executives insisted the story was bigger than any actor, that Geralt is an idea, not a face. That decision, to move forward without even pausing to reevaluate, told fans everything they needed to know about how the company saw them. Viewers weren't part of the Witcher family anymore, they were customers, expected to consume whatever version was served next. Then came the creative pivots. Leaked reports suggested that Season 4 was partially rewritten to lighten the tone and shift focus toward ensemble storytelling rather than Geralt's journey. The Witcher, a series born from themes of isolation, destiny, and the cost of power, was being remade into a team-driven fantasy adventure. Even the show's cinematography changed. Darker color palettes replaced with brighter hues, fight scenes edited to look more superheroic than brutal. The gritty realism was gone, replaced by glossy digital fantasy. Industry critics began to notice a pattern. From Cowboy Bebop to Resident Evil, Netflix's fantasy adaptations suffered the same fate. Too many cooks, not enough soul. The Witcher was simply the latest casualty of an algorithmic approach to storytelling. When Lauren Schmidt-Hissrich gave interviews defending Season 4, her tone was defiant but weary. She insisted the show was evolving, not dying. But to many viewers, her words echoed corporate damage control rather than artistic confidence. What makes this part of the story so tragic is that it didn't have to end this way. With a tighter focus, creative unity, and respect for the source material, The Witcher could have rivaled Game of Thrones in both depth and scale. Instead, it became a textbook example of how studio interference and creative disconnect can erode even the strongest foundations. So when fans point fingers today, it's not just about Cavill or Hemsworth, it's about trust. The trust that was lost when Netflix treated a beloved world like a brand rather than a story. The Witcher wasn't just a fantasy show, it was a promise. And somewhere between Season 1's thunderous debut and Season 4's confused finale, that promise was broken. Watch any episode of Season 4 and you'll notice it immediately. The energy's gone. What used to feel raw and grounded now plays like a soap opera set in armor. The pacing lurches from intense monster battles to endless dialogue scenes where nothing actually happens. Even the visuals, once praised for their grit, look overly polished and sterile. Critics described it as a bloated mess with sparks of brilliance buried under layers of filler. The problem isn't just editing, it's identity. Geralt's once stoic edge has been replaced by a softer, more introspective personality. Side characters dominate whole episodes while the supposed lead vanishes into the background. Series subplot, which should have added tension, instead drags on without purpose. By the time the credits roll, you're not sure whether you just watched an epic fantasy or a long-winded drama about people talking in circles. The heart of the story, monster hunting, moral gray areas, and medieval mystery, feels buried beneath studio notes and misplaced priorities. The Witcher wasn't built by Netflix, it was built by its fans. Long before the show existed, the books and games had cultivated a fiercely loyal audience that understood the tone, the lore, and the moral depth of Geralt's world. But Season 4 feels like it was made for everyone except them. The writing leans toward generic fantasy tropes, the action scenes feel disconnected, and the emotional core has been replaced with surface-level melodrama.
The backlash isn't just about disappointment, it's about betrayal. The same people who defended the show through early criticism now feel like Netflix abandoned them, and that puts the franchise at risk. Spin-offs like Blood Origin already flopped, and insiders whisper that Netflix may quietly retire the series after Season 5 if numbers don't rebound. What started as the platform's answer to Game of Thrones has turned into a cautionary tale about what happens when a studio forgets who its audience is. When a show crashes this hard, the instinct is to find a single villain, and Liam Hemsworth unfairly became that easy target. The memes, the sarcastic tweets, the comparisons to Henry Cavill's gravitas, all of it made Hemsworth the face of a failure he didn't create. But peel back the layers and you see a bigger picture. The Witcher didn't fall because of one actor. It fell because of a system that stopped listening. Netflix operates on algorithms and trend curves. Every major decision, from episode length to dialogue pacing, is run through data models predicting what most viewers will like. But you can't quantify soul, and The Witcher was built on soul, on moral ambiguity, folklore, and quiet moments of philosophy between brutal fights. Once those things were trimmed down for streaming efficiency, the story's beating heart went with them. Critics and insiders point to what they call the adaptation trap, when a studio buys a popular IP and then spends years trying to reshape it into something else. The Witcher became that trap in real time. The writers leaned into modernized humor and emotional melodrama, while the executives pushed for global mass appeal. The result was a creative identity crisis. Was this the grim fantasy world fans love from the books and games? Or was it just another flashy Netflix series trying to chase whatever trends Squid Game or Stranger Things had last set? Meanwhile, Henry Cavill's departure left a vacuum no amount of CGI could fill. He wasn't just playing Geralt, he believed in Geralt. Losing him exposed how fragile the show's creative structure had become. Even talented replacements can't anchor a ship whose navigation system is broken. So where does the blame really lie? It lies in the boardrooms that prioritized analytics over artistry. It lies in a writer's room that forgot what world it was writing for. And it lies in a creative direction too proud to admit when it had lost the map. Liam Hemsworth walked into a storm that was already raging. And the tragedy is that by the time he arrived, there was nothing left to save. In the end, The Witcher's collapse isn't about one single casting choice or one disappointing season. It's about a creative vision that lost touch with its roots. Henry Cavill's exit was the warning shot. The moment fans realized the show they loved was being reshaped into something unrecognizable. Liam Hemsworth's debut didn't destroy the series, it simply revealed how fragile it had already become. Yet, the story isn't over. There's still time for Netflix to course correct, to rebuild trust, and to remember what made people fall in love with this world in the first place. The Witcher is a universe built on destiny, and maybe its destiny now is to learn from failure. So, what do you think? Can The Witcher redeem itself, or has the coin finally landed on its cursed side? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest wins and losses in entertainment.